Hello everyone, welcome for this webinar. Very happy to see you after the summer. I hope the summer was good. So today I'm with Christine. I'm very happy to share the webinar with Christine from Safe AI Now. We've been talking a lot over the last few months about AI governance, about regulations, about fun topic, no? And we thought it was a good idea to start the year with this session on how to concretely navigate the AI Act, how to build an action plan that is very, very concrete, and that will make you again thrive and not fight against regulation and around those topics. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you very much for this opportunity and for having me with you today. So I'm very happy to navigate the EU Act and also evaluate some practical strategies for implementation.
I'm putting a comment on the chat. So please, everyone, raise your question during the. Don't hesitate to put your comments on LinkedIn. We'll monitoring comments. So if you have any question for us, any feedback, anything, it's very welcome. We can take them in real time. I would say so. So let's start. Do you want to introduce Safe AI Now, maybe, Christine?
With pleasure. So Safe AI Now is a training and consulting company created in 2022. We are specialized in translating AI regulation into actionable strategies. So basically, we are proposing services on training, workshops, risk assessment, compliance evaluation, and also building AI strategies and the implementation roadmap for large and small institutions. We are part of UpFrancia, and we are based in Switzerland.
Awesome. So, so as you said, so you're on the consulting side. UE, we are a software vendor. We have a SaaS platform that really is the cockpit to manage all the data and AI transformation end to end. So really animating all the life cycle and building that bridge between technical and non-technical client, and we are both part of several groups with Christine, the France AI, Impact AI, etc. So different organizations, and we thought we had a kind of a natural synergy on bringing that strong expertise on AI and AI governance, and you providing the kind of the platform to animate that and to make it operational. So let's move into the details based on that.
Sure.
So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So the goal of this webinar today is to recap a little bit on the EU AI Act, to discuss also AI risk management and beyond compliance, what we can do and how we can leverage and explore techniques to maximize AI value and governance. So I will start with a quick overview of the EU AI Act. So as you may know, the EU AI Act is in force since 1st of August this year. The first goal of this regulation is to set some rules to ensure AI systems are safe, transparent, and respect fundamental rights in Europe. This regulation has transitional timelines for implementation. The first one will start in February next year, then in May next year, and then so on for different type of risk during 2 years. Can we move to the next slide?
Yes, thanks for this recap of the key challenges.
Yes, in terms of key provisions, as you may know, we have a risk-based approach in Europe with different level of risk. So first, minimal risk, there is no specific risk and no specific very low requirements. Limited risk, where we have some transparency requirements, and then we have high risk and unacceptable risk. So by February next year, you need to ensure that you do not have any prohibited, so unacceptable risk in your company, and ensure that you have a strategy to manage them. Either you decommission or you ensure that you can move them in another direction. So there is some work to do on the unacceptable risk by February next year. And then there is a large requirements related to high risk systems, where we have here the main requirements. For high risk system, you need to have a risk management process in place. You need to have robust data governance process, being for sourcing, transforming this data, cleaning this data, and managing this data, incoming in the AI, but also running with the AI. You need also to get a technical documentation in place and update this technical documentation for any audit. Having some record keeping and security also on track. And you need to protect also some key users to ensure that you have some transparency procedures in place, some provision information to users, telling them that they are interacting with an AI system. You need to put in place some human oversight and accountability process around the use of AI. And last but not least, you need to ensure that you have consistent results and reliable AI with accuracy, robustness, security requirements. Based on that, the EUC will release a conformity assessment, and you will have also to perform for high-risk system a fundamental human right assessment. So that's basically the most stringent obligation that we have on high-risk system. It doesn't mean that for other AI system we do not have any requirement. We need to have at minimum some code of conduct and some voluntary also information to the customers. And in case of infringement, you have also some penalties, which can go to 7% of the turnover of a company. And the lowest one, just for incorrect or incomplete or misleading information, is 1% of the turnover. So this is a process in today already into force, but the Europe is currently refining the implementation related to all this obligation, and we will get more details also in the coming months with the AI office.
Yeah, it's scary things in a way, so we really need to act upon that quickly.
So what I would like to do now is maybe just underline some key implications of this regulation and how practically we could implement them. If we stick to this regulation, the companies needs to embed the compliance requirements, particularly for high-risk system, into the AI life cycle. So when you are developing an AI system, you need to think in terms from design to deployment, how you will put in place some controls. You have seen the objective, which is to protect some specific ethical requirements. So here you need to put in place some ethical principles to ensure that you have proper fairness, transparency, and accountability. There is also a strong focus on the fact that you should not over-rely on AI or under-rely on AI. So you need to establish also some clear roles and responsibilities in the organization and ensure that you maintain some oversight. There is a strong focus on this regulation related to risk management. It requires ongoing risk assessment and also to tailor mitigation strategies to ensure to reduce the risk, and also not only in the development phase, but during the production of the AI. So you need to monitor when the AI is operational all this risk. So it's quite significant in terms of effort and also in terms of documentation and infrastructure. And last but not least, AI relies on data, so you need to put in place some robust data governance process for sourcing the data, having some quality checks, and also privacy measures to ensure that data privacy is embedded by design in the AI development, and also ensure security protocols. So that's some critical implications of the EU AI Act.
Yeah, what is really interesting is the fact that it's an ongoing process. It's really something that needs to be deep inside the operating model to make sure that it's not just a one-time exercise when you launch the AI development or framing your project. It's really something that is deep into organizations.
Yeah, so most organizations are starting point or discovery point regarding some AI solutions, like for example generative AI solutions, and they're just starting this process, but it will be a kind of ongoing process and improvement process over the time. It's not one shot.
Sure. So how to make it happen?
Yeah, that's a bit the questions. The first one is maybe to identify some AI risks, and you may also identify some risks which are not explicitly addressed by the EU AI Act. Maybe a quick reminder, in the EU AI Act, there is a cautious approach of risk. For the regulator, the risk is the combination of the probability of harm occurring and the severity of harm. So it's a commitment to safeguard any potential negative impacts of AI technologies. So the EU AI Act is very focused on the negative impact. But if you take other framework or other international standards, for example, the ISO standards, here you have a broader perspective on AI risks. And here you can include also some organizational objective, and the risk is considered through both lenses or perspective, both positive and negative outcome. So when you start your project related to risk management, you need just to ask your question: what is proactive? Should I be proactive and have a holistic approach to AI risk, or should I comply only to the risk definition of the EU AI Act? And by then, you will conduct regular AI risk assessment depending on the scope that you have defined, either beyond the compliance scope or strictly on the compliance scope.
Yeah, I think that's something we discussed, which is really important. Is that thinking about only the operational risk or the downside is always a challenge, and but sometimes it's also a narrow thinking, because you have risks that are not regulatory but that can still matter to you, like environmental risk or social risk or image risk, etc. So that's really interesting or very important to have a broader view on what matters to you and where you really want to care about that, and not just make sure you comply with the law, because it's not only the law that can hurt you in a way.
Yeah, exactly, because it can engage also different stakeholders, being in the company, but also in the society or external also regulators. So you have to include different perspectives, and the best in terms of practice is to get a holistic approach of risk. So you go and include, for example, risk related to finance, related to operational risk or reputational risk on top of ethical risk. So we have some example behind.
Yeah.
Of the templates. So in SafeAI now we have developed a small template just to streamline and also have a framework to evaluate what is the impact of AI Act, but also any AI standard or framework that you want to implement. So the first thing is to identify the scope. And then you have 4 components, and one of the key components in the assessment is in the identification of risk. And here you may see on this screenshot as an example, some type of risk related to ethical consideration, robustness, explainability, transparency, accountability, or human interaction, for example.
Yeah, that's and again, that's interesting canvas, and that's so that's something built by Christine and the SafeAI Now team, and we had that same slide coming from US side, where we have similar way to ask question, you know, and thinking on the left side about what are your both the regulation you need to comply with, but also your own goals, and, you know, in terms of privacy, in terms of course cybersecurity, but also environmental impact, social impact, or compliance with your own processes. And then what's interesting with those risks is then to map that in where do they apply. You know, do they apply on your data? Do they apply on your AI system only, or do they apply on your architecture, or maybe on other things like your processes and other in the organization? And so it's really, again, it's really important when you think about risk is to have a broad view on both being ethical, responsible, and compliance. I think we discussed also, I don't know if everyone is aware of the sustainable AI, the topic, which is also a notion of risk, a long-term risk maybe, but a real one about what is your environmental footprint. So there has been a new spec from AFNOR in France about sustainable AI and giving a lot of measurement principles around that. So that's also something, typically the kind of thing that can be integrated into your risk management framework and approach. So and here again, there's plenty of frameworks. So and we have both with SafeAI Now and UE a few to propose you that we started sharing. So the next part is value.
Yeah. So in terms of value and how to demonstrate value, that's a critical question, because today we have a lot of experimentation and not a lot of AI system going into production. So which metrics could you use to ensure and show some values in terms of AI initiative? I would say you have some financial metrics that are quite traditional, but not really easily applicable also in some cases for AI. You may have also, if you are using AI, for example, for customer interaction, to evaluate the contribution of AI to the new revenue streams, for example. And you can use also for non-financial metrics. For example, you can use, for example, if you use an AI for a call center, you can gauge the impact of AI on the customer experience. You can evaluate also if you are using generative AI in your company for all the employees, what is the adoption rate? And if you have also set up some ethical framework, you can also ensure that you have a kind of scorecard in place to ensure that you are compliant with the ethical guidelines or principles that you have put in place. So you can cascade this type of KPIs and, for example, leverage the OKR approach for that and implement them in solutions like you that we will see just afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that notion of value is really important, and I'd say, and you mentioned it already, but it's very important to connect very quickly what you want to achieve with AI, not only with risk but also with value. Otherwise, it's a very hard way to move things within the organization, because only thinking about the negative part of things or the defensive part is hard. And so to have a balanced discussion, we need to have that value aspect as part of the discussion very, very quickly, and that's where also we meet. And the second part is because when you assess the risk, a risk is only worth taking within the value expectation. So some, if I was discussing with people yesterday and saying, if you only think about your risk, you won't go out of the bed in the morning, basically, because everything can be dangerous. So you need to have a value out of something to accept some risk. So here again, you have the framework.
Yes, so there is one critical item, which is strategy in this framework, where we evaluate what is the value of AI systems and how this value is also connected to the corporate strategy. Because when you are building some AI system, you should have also a nice strategy which is aligned with the overall business objective of the company. So this is a critical point where we have also to align not only the evaluation of AI risk or negative impact of AI risk, but also to leverage AI for additional value. And this is this section on the strategy in yellow in the framework where we evaluate this business value.
Yeah, so that's exactly that. So that's really the starting point to make sure that after, we started with talking about risk, but that notion of starting with business alignment, making sure we know what we're going to do is a great way to make sure that you are effective in evaluating the risk and making sure that you assess them in the right frame, I would say.
So coming back also to the first question, you can use these tangible metrics, as we mentioned, to present some data-driven results and that clearly show the financial or non-financial impact of the AI. But you can also showcase when you are, for example, performing a prototype on a small scale, what are the results, and communicate to all the stakeholders. So that's the reason why this strategy block is also linked to the engagement, where you need to have some kind of communication on your strategy and how you want to leverage AI and which results you have.
Exactly. So it's no, you're right. It's not just a one-time exercise at the beginning, but something that needs to be used throughout the life of the project, and maybe with different milestones or different thresholds for those KPIs and OKRs during the lifetime. And I think again that's very connecting with. To complement that, I'm sharing a few ways we're driving this question with our clients on how do you make that connection and how you use the right frameworks, because as you said, there is plenty of ways to. There is no one way to define those KPIs. It's always something that needs to match. How does your organization talk about value, and how does that connect to the business goals? And so here, this is a kind of example of 4 different approaches that we've seen that taken from, let's say, industry books, but that we see happening in clients. And that's the first thing, that what we call the value lineage, to connect those outcomes. For example, what is the vision the company want to achieve? What are the goals that have been set? What are the high-level initiatives that are being taken? And then how does that become AI use cases or AI initiative for the strategy? So then you have a good way to connect those things. Or there is a Gartner framework, which is thinking about who are the stakeholders in the company, what are the business priorities, what are the outcomes, but like these are OKRs, how we're going to measure their success. And then the value enablers here are the use cases, what are the use cases we're going to identify to provide value versus those outcomes, etc., etc. So you can think about value. You can think it's very also fancy now to think about decision intelligence and decision tree. So think about what are the decisions people take. How does AI is going to help to inform, to make better decisions? And that's also a great way sometimes to think about value, to your point, because then you think about if we improve decision quality, then it's a way to maybe less errors or more accuracy or more timeliness, etc. That's a great way to showcase the value of those investments. And to go a bit deeper than that, once we have that high-level framework in terms of mapping AI use case or AI investments with outcomes, we go into that level, what we call measurement. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that kind of view, because that's we could spend 1 hour on that one. But that connects to what you said, because when we think about measurement, the nature of the things we can measure are very heterogeneous. So we can think about financial valuation, or we can think about product adoption, business KPI, and so on. And all of them matters, but they're not similar, equivalent, or they're not targeting the same audience in a way. So because they're not communicating exactly the same thing. So the more technical one are interesting, but and knowing that you measure things at different level is also interesting, because then you know who you're communicating them to in a way. But also sometimes you can see the impact on one on the other one. For example, then what is the impact of better data quality on a KPI, or what is the impact of a better AI model prediction on the outcome, etc. So both are interesting. So all those levels are interesting at some point. It doesn't mean that you need to start measuring everything at first, but step by step, having that coverage is also important. And again, doing that, I think you mentioned that, Christine, it's really end-to-end. So at the very beginning of the project, you need to establish your baseline on what are the numbers, the baseline numbers, and then define the processes to measure that over time. So during the development phase, during the proof of concept phase, during the different rollout phase of the system within the organization, to be able to adapt, and again, to control your risk, but also to control value. So we talk about risk, we talk about value and how we connect them. Now let's see what does it mean in terms of governance?
Yes, governance is a key factor, not only in AI compliance, but also in AI development. It's crucial to ensure that AI systems are built on high quality, secure, and compliant data. It will help you also to mitigate, for example, data bias, privacy, and security, which are also requirements of the EU AI Act. So some best practice includes, for example, as I said previously, to implement some robust data validation and cleaning process to ensure that you have accurate and reliable data used in the AI model. You may have also some practices related to security, like encryption, regular audits to protect sensitive data. And last but not least, for Europe, data privacy also in addition to the GDPR and any other data protection is key. And you need to incorporate privacy by design principle in the development of your AI system, but also in the data collection, the data processing, and in the storage practice. So all along the, I would say, data management cycle, when you use some data for AI, you need to ensure that your privacy by design principles are applicable and also have some controls in place. So data governance is a kind of structured approach which is required by the EU AI Act, but it will help also to provide some more robust system, and it will also help also to provide more value, coming back to the last point, because we will rely on more accurate and reliable outcome in the end.
Exactly. So what is this? So how do we make that happen?
Yes, that's a critical point, and most of the time, particularly for my clients, which are more focused on regulatory environment, like financial services, healthcare, or public sector, they have already AI governance process or risk management process in place. And the question is how to incorporate or integrate an additional layer for AI on top of the existing corporate governance. Because they don't want to get an additional layer.
One more.
with their governance goals. And yeah, so the key steps for that is first maybe to establish a cross-functional team. It should include, for example, members from legal, from risk management, from IT, technical, but also from business, to get a holistic view on the AI governance, particularly for high-risk systems. You should also, if you are a financial services company, ensure that you have today a risk management framework in place, how this AI system, high governance match this risk management system. So you should have also some kind of integration, and maybe not replicate or duplicate all the instances of structure, but extend some existing structure and potential members to specific AI topics, depending on the risk. You could also put in place also some framework policies, so update specific guidelines for AI, specific policies to ensure that you are compliant with risk management requirements, EU ethics principles, and also compliance. And on top of this organizational engagement and also framework in terms of policy and guidelines, you will need to get some platform and technology to manage your key indicators or KPIs related to this AI governance, because in the end, you will have also to testify to the authority, if it's needed, that you have put in place all the controls. So you will need some tools to manage this, or integrated platform or separated platform, it depends, but UE is one of them.
Yeah, I think what you raise is really important. The fact that with AI governance, you both extend existing governance processes, but it becomes even broader in terms of how it impacts different functions, and how the collaboration of all the different things together is key to make it happen, to be efficient, because otherwise it can be a nightmare to manage. So we really have that kind of multidimensional problem where it's across a lot of different business function within the organization, but also across the life cycle, so around time. So you need to manage that program. Really, that notion of 360 makes sense now, because it's really it's really in all different directions, and it's again a multi-dimensional problem, and also it touch people, technology, processes, culture, etc., etc. So it's a deep one. So
yeah. Just to complement on this, and particularly for large organizations, when they have different AI systems in different business area or different geographies, the question will come: how will we manage this? And it's a matter of organization, it's true, of oversight, of policy guidelines, etc. But it's also a matter of platform and tools.
Yes, and something we mentioned actually on that also is there will be, you mentioned large organization, and the larger the organization, the more opportunities for reuse will happen also. So that's part of having the efficient ways to make sure how can we reuse stuff, because it will make both less investment, but also easier to control risk for that. So it's also part of making sure we can control that. As I said in the chat, Stake to the End will try to share also how it looks like to implement that framework and to end live, and with a very concrete example.
Yeah, so here you have just this framework that we have proposed, which is a starting point, but then we need to make it during the life cycle and maintain it and get the infrastructure to do it. So that's the reason why this partnership is also valuable.
Exactly. So So I think again, what is really interesting. So that framework gives a great view end to end of what you need to care about. Defining the strategy, making sure you do all your value and risk assessment, connecting that to the feasibility, and then tracking the program over time, communicating to stakeholders and so on. But what we see is that, and that's something we've been communicating a lot with you, is that there is a strong, as we said before, it doesn't stop with setting the goals and so on, or it's not just a one-time exercise. It's something that is over time, and it's going to live with your program over time. And so it's really important to have an efficient way to connect your strategy that you define initially with your operating model, and to have feedback loops and to have ways to adapt, because also what is important is that regulations are going to change. You said that at the very beginning, the AI Act is very new, but for many companies, they're also international, so there will be other regulation coming in, or so there's a lot of things moving. So it's really important to find a way to, and this is where I believe tools like UE are important, is to make sure you have an efficient and way to build those processes, to build collaboration, and to run that, to operate that over time, and for that, especially not only to run operations, but always to make sure that what you do in operations is in line with those risk expectation, with those value expectation. How do you report that? How do you adjust the plan, etc., etc. And again, we're not going to dive into all of that today, but we discussed about some of them. When we talk about the strategic level, we have those outcome assessment, we have the risk guideline assessment, we have the measurement part that is already part of how something that is running over time. And then to connect all of that, there is that notion of having a portfolio, which is a way to build those inventories and to run all the different processes behind. And this is those parts that will be connected with then how your delivery teams are actually working on, and of course with your change management program overall. And so that's really the key part, to basically take the SAFe method framework and Canvas that you've seen before, and make that an operational version, basically something that you're going to live with, to have all your strategy captured, and making sure that when you start building on your AI system, you have the inventory up to date, you have your risk up to date, you can continue to mature on that, because there is also that we didn't discuss too much on the maturity part, but that's a big part on the knowing where we are. So then we find in the portfolio, there's again that connection between all those, what we see on the right here, all the different frameworks, value assessment, risk assessment, cost assessment, all what we discussed on the left, which are all the governance workflows, again, managing the life cycle of product, but supporting all your different committees, decision gates, etc., and supporting all your different reporting requirements for compliance and internal tracking. And in the middle, you have that value lineage, which is, again, connecting your strategy, business priorities, the measurements and different KPIs, OKRs, etc., the different use case you identify, so how you're going to transform the business, and then connecting that to all those different AI systems, data sets, data products that you build and that you can reuse across the board. So that holistic view is really the core to animate that program over time. I don't know if you want to raise something specific on here, Christine. I think we covered most of the.
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah.
It'd be great if you have just a quick look of how it works.
Yeah, let's have a look on it. So I think we have a question from Tom. Let me.
Yeah, we'll answer the question after maybe this presentation.
Okay, so let's come to the question afterwards. Okay, if you have other questions, please pop them in the chat, and we will come back to it afterwards. So what we wanted to show you also is here now you have a view on a demo instance of UE, where we basically took the safe method canvas that we've shown before in this presentation to show how does that become a living version in a tool like UE. So basically, you will find again those different swim lane, different phases from defining your strategy, doing your assessment, then moving into feasibility, basically what does it drive in terms of resource allocation, data requirements, and so on, up to engagement and how do you manage the program over time in terms of transformation. So what's interesting now is that it's more than the canvas with the right question. You really have an operational tools. For example, for strategic alignment, you directly have that value lineage where you see those links, you build those links between strategic business objectives on the left, your business metrics, the different use case, and here AI product that you identify to deliver them. So you have a direct connection between those AI products and the expected outcome. And back here, if you go into more details, you can dive into those business objectives. And for each of them, have more details in terms of what is the expected business value, what is the associated budget, and probably what are the measurement metrics you identify. So that's also a great way to go into more details and to have something that is very business facing and that is meaningful for your business stakeholders, because you're not talking their own language and their own KPIs, and showing that everything that is done in the program is done for business purposes, clear business purposes. And then, of course, you can build your different compliance milestones. So having that high-level view on what does the program look like and the high-level goals you want to put. So that's, for example, a few ways to look at it in terms of strategy. But everything you've defined then can be used in the next phases. So it's always about and you have a continuity and a kind of a knowledge graph on all those different dimensions together, which is important. Like, and I'm going to go quick because of time. But again, if you have more questions, let us know. Of course, now you can have also your inventory of AI systems. So building that inventory and working in terms of classifying them. So one high risk, medium risk, low risk, etc. And being able to animate through that. So for each of those AI system, we can go and have the different value assessment, but with different checklists, but also some maybe quality metrics, etc., documenting stakeholders within there, and again managing the life cycle of those AI systems. So again, very practical tool that can be very customized to make sure that you have your right question and your right tracking mechanism and workflows. But that's an illustration of how we can it's small. I think you can make the video bigger, hopefully. Yeah, it's okay. I will share thank you I will share a separate video afterwards if you're interested to see, because indeed it's very blurry on LinkedIn, so it's very small. Let me zoom a bit on it. Maybe it will be slightly more visual. Hopefully it will be better like that. So here again we have that kind of is it better? Yeah. Okay, maybe it's a bit more visual. So here it's the inventory of AI systems with all the different questions. So again here, I hope you saw a bit on the things before. Again, we had strategic alignment, and then we can go into more details, like having all the risk management views. So here we have view of, for example, what is the overall coverage in terms of risk by use case, by AI product across the board, so where you need to be careful and how you can easily report that. And of course, you can also work in terms of AI literacy assessment, so making sure you can run those assessments directly here and track them over time. Here we've done them globally, but you can also use those assessments to compare across different part of the organization. So that's part of the tool in your assessment. And and even like, for example, practical tools also like that, where you can track documentation coverage for your AI systems. So for all of your AI systems, by risk classification, you can see where you are in terms of documentation requirements for the AI Act, and compare that to, do you have the RACI defined, do you have threats identified, do you have some risk event that you identify, etc., etc. So that's typically the kind of tools we build, and to make it very, very operational. And then you can link that to the delivery part. So again, looking in terms of delivery allocation, the link to data requirement, the link to technology requirements. So saying, for example, what is the technology we need, and what is the impact it has on, or what is the readiness of those technologies today compared to the different use case we need, etc., etc. Maybe to move, and finally, also, what is something that is really important, and I think you discussed it at the very beginning, Christine, is communication, because it's not about defining things, running them. It's a lot. For me, a challenge for CDOs is always about being the PR for what they're doing, like making the sell, not only initially, but also, so as you need to walk the floor, to sell what you're doing, to sell the impact, to sell the benefits. So we quickly built a dashboard like that, where you can communicate both on the actual cost of that, for example, a compliance program, but also on the timeline. What is the action plan? How is it moving forward? And for each of those actions, of course, you can track who's in charge, what is having workflows, and animate that. So again, quick demo to show you how we bring that great canvas, and that's an example of canvas, to extend it and to make it a real operational tool to run your program, and to make sure that not only you give the guideline, but you have a running version of it for all your different users, all your different stakeholders, and that makes it much easier to track and animate over time. If anyone is interested to dive a bit more and have a private demo or something like that, please reach out. Of course, we can either Christine or myself, we can dive you into more details of either those different questions, or how do we actually make them operational from an operational standpoint.
Just as a maybe word for conclusion, what is the benefit of this platform, or differentiator of this platform compared to other solutions in the market?
I think good question. I think so. It's two different questions. The value is always about basically effectiveness or scalability. If you're just 3 people in your organization, probably you can run things across a few piece of paper almost. But if you want to scale your opportunities, you need a way to have those processes defined, and to have that visibility, and to have those workflows up and running, etc. So that's really being efficient and scalable in how you run that. Linked to that, I didn't show it here, but we also connect to existing systems. So it's also a way to automate the link with Jira for delivery, with Collibra or Data Galaxy for existing data governance initiative, or existing data inventory, etc., etc. So it's really important to have that for it. In terms of differentiation, what is really important is that we are kind of uniquely running those data and AI program end-to-end. So having the ability to have both that program-oriented view and that asset-oriented view with products and product management over time, and really being able to build that bridge between technical and non-technical users. So that's our positioning, to be filling that gap that exists almost everywhere now between the data teams and the non-technical teams that are actually collaborating with data, and that's really a critical need for large organization today.
Thanks for your answer.
Thanks a lot, Christine, for the discussion. Thanks everyone for the participation. I hope it was interesting and valuable for you. If I hope you saw enough. Sorry for the small size of the demo initially. If you have any additional question, please reach out on. We can let me bring the slide back. I think you have QR codes. You can reach out Christine or myself anytime on LinkedIn. I think we'd be happy to connect and continue discussions. And again, if you're interested in any of the material we share in more details, let us know.
Just a word. I will just answer the question of one independently. If we
bring this question here.
So the question is related to the use of AI and how the bank, wealth management, pharma companies are leveraging AI. What I've seen, and from my customer also background, is currently AI is most used for productivity, but from sensitive and client data, it's most used for risk management and fraud management. Topics related, for example, for wealth management on advisory are used, but for in preparation, not for, I would say, facing clients. So in live in meeting. So that's how it works. It's more preparation of data for customer interaction, but that's all. And otherwise, we have more data which is used and AI used for productivity. So enhancing, for example, with call centers, the personalization of answers with AI, for example.
Yeah, I think thanks for the answer, Christine, because I think again, it's always that question of value versus risk, and today the upsides of using AI for some critical processes is too big for companies to completely. I mean, there are some who make a ban, but they might pay it for someday. So that's definitely something we're seeing. I don't think we have more questions, so let's call it a day for today. So thank you again, Christine, for this session together. I was really happy to show our synergies and hopefully to bring some informative content for everyone. And again, have a great day, and please reach out. Any last word, Christine? All good?
All good. Thanks a lot for the invitation, and happy to answer any question. I'm available on LinkedIn if you need further information.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good end of day, and see you soon on LinkedIn.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.